this is another story about Frank that a lot of people didn't know the impact, the real impact that he had with his music in his life. While touring with him one time, we were working in Worcester, Massachusetts at a place called the Centrum, a big theater in the Round. And that night after the show, I went over to the a restaurant across the street with the guys in the band. Excuse me. Went across the street with the guys in the band. And while we're having dinner, the guitar player, Ron Anthony, said, "Tommy, you see those two young girls over there?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "They laid flowers at Mr. S.'s feet during the whole show. And they wept during the whole show." I said, "Oh, really?" They were young girls. So as we were leaving, it was cold out, so I went to get my coat from the coat check lady, and the two girls came up. And they said, "Oh, we saw your show, and you made us laugh, blah, blah, blah." I said, "That's nice. Thank you." But I said, "I'm curious. How old are you?" She said, "I'm 20. I said, "How old's your girlfriend?" She said, "It's my sister. She's 18. And I said, "Oh, the reason I'm asking you is because Ron Anthony said that you laid flowers at Mr. S.'s feet and that you wept during the show. You seem awful young to be Sinatra fans." She said, "My mother and father loved Frank Sinatra. We grew up listening to his music. In our living room, there was a mantle that had a huge picture of him above the mantle, taken from one of his album covers." And she said, "So we grew up listening to his music. My mom and dad died last year, 4 months apart." She said, "My dad died first. Before my mom died, my sister and I were sitting by her bedside, and she was talking about her life. And she told us that my sister and I were actually conceived to Frank Sinatra's music. They used to play his music when they made love." And she said, "We were conceived to his music. So tonight, while he was singing, we felt our parents' presence there. And that's why we wept during the whole show." And I said, "Whoa." And I made a mistake. I was so touched by the story. 2 weeks later, I was telling Frank this story. We were at his house. And I said, he was saying to Barbara, he said, "Have you noticed, a lot of young people are coming to the concerts now." He said, "Have you noticed that, Tommy?" And I told this story, what happened there. And he said to me, "Did you get their names?" And I didn't. That's where I made the mistake. Because I know him. He would have sent them something, something. But Frank Sinatra's music was a soundtrack of people's lives. If you were a Sinatra fan, his music was a soundtrack of your life. When you went steady, when somebody loves you, it's no good unless she loves you, all the way. If you got married to his music, love and marriage. You got divorced to his music, and you sat in that bar when your woman left you, and your heart was aching, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's no one to talk to but the bartender. And you got remarried to his music. Love is lovelier the second time around. So his music was a soundtrack of your life, and it was no more apparent when I toured with him when he did My Way. His closing number would always be New York, New York, which was an uptune. He closed with an uptune. But the song before was My Way. And I would always sit in the wings and watch how that affected the audience. Because those lyrics now, "And now the end is near, and though I face that final curtain," and the people in the audience would start weeping, because that song is played at more male funerals than any other song. Because their uncle, their dad, their father, their brother, he did it his way too. He had one milk truck and he ended up with 30 milk trucks or whatever. That was their song too. The appeal that he had for that vast audience with the lyrics of that song that should only be sung by him, by Frank Sinatra. They would weep in the audience and holler out, "Long live Frank Sinatra! We love you, Frank Sinatra."